Goal-scoring exploits, and that too at a frightening pace, are what most people around the world use as a measuring stick to rate who's the best player on the planet. Why is it that we only measure greatness by the number of goals scored by a particular player during his career? Why don't we look at other important factors such as key passes, tackles, aerial ability, and all those other metrics that increase the probability of goals? Indeed, all great strikers do need a great supporting cast in order for them to perform to the best of their abilities. Do you think that Gerd Müller would have ever supported so many goals if he was not supported by the likes of Franz Beckenbauer or Lothar Matthäus? In the last few years, however, football fans have definitely become a bit more selective when it comes to naming their greatest striker of all time. Factors such as league strength, goals in important games, or against a tough opponent, and other elements have started mattering more. Perhaps this is why we are still having a hard time moving on from the eternal Messi-Ronaldo discussion. Indeed, it is also true that the player's career doesn't come to an end once he hangs up his boots. The reputation of a player can change quite a bit due to this peculiar combination of the game's constant evolution and the ensuing nostalgia. In a few cases, achievements of many great players are forgotten with time as the world moves on to the next big thing. A number of forwards, from Thierry Henry to Lionel Messi to Cristiano Ronaldo to Zlatan Ibrahimovic, have managed to surpass one forward whose achievements might have been bested, but his playing style was never well and truly replicated. Hello everyone, and welcome to yet another exciting video on your favourite channel, Goalside. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe so that you never have to miss out on all the good stuff we have for you. Today we're going to talk about Brazilian legend Ronaldo Nazário, a one-of-a-kind striker and a unique talent who achieved a lot of great things during what was sadly an injury-stricken career. Before we begin, keep a lookout for a question during the video. If you're able to answer it correctly, you'll have a chance of winning a $100 Amazon gift card. Make sure to leave your answer in the comments section. While the world of today talks more about Cristiano Ronaldo, and we don't blame them, keeping in mind all the great things the Portuguese forward has achieved, Ronaldo remains one of the greatest strikers of all time. The comparisons between these two are always rather unflattering. Even Sir Alex Ferguson couldn't help but take a shot at the Brazilian one when comparing him to his namesake he had with him for 6 years at Manchester United. "If I compare Cristiano with the fat one, the old one, Cristiano is better," said Ferguson. And while he did put on a lot of weight as his career came to a close, do you know that we were able to witness two different Ronaldos within the same man? Il Fenomeno, as he was known as, was pretty much good at everything during the 1990s. But once he returned from a long-term injury that threatened to cut short his career, Ronaldo became a serial goalscorer. It was a knee injury while at Internazionale that took away the explosiveness that made him one of the greatest young players you would ever come across. Watching a young Ronaldo play was witnessing a unique fusion of speed, skill and strength. Il Fenomeno suffered his first serious injury in 1999. He was 23 at the time and had already scored more than 200 goals in all competitions. While he played just one season with Barcelona, his goals return stood at 47 scored in only 49 games, and most of the goals he scored were simply outrageous. While his goal tally at Camp Nou was something that has been repeated by Messi on more than one occasion, what Il Fenomeno achieved during that time was nothing short of extraordinary. While comparing a player from the past with some of the players of the current era can clearly showcase how far the game has come, watching a Ronaldo Nazário highlight always gives you the sense that this was a player who was way ahead of his time, and whatever he was doing in the 90s, he would be able to do easily today. And if that isn't enough, how about you go and look at his performance for Brazil in the 1998 World Cup semi-final against the Netherlands. While he played in the centre of the pitch, Ronaldo actually played like a winger, which made him an unknown quantity and a threatening one for that matter. Indeed, it was as if he only needed 10 seconds to initiate and complete an offensive move. Perhaps one of the greatest examples of his explosiveness comes from watching his famous 50-yard lung-busting dash during the extra time of the semi-final against the Dutch. In that moment, Il Fenomeno zoomed past Frank de Boer and Jaap Stam, before the former was luckily able to stop the Brazilian. Before he arrived on the scene, football had already witnessed some truly great strikers, such as George Weah, Eusebio, and others, but they weren't as devastating as Il Fenomeno was. Rather than trying to find space between the lines of defence and midfield, Ronaldo would only focus on getting him behind the defenders. While most of the strikers of today are capable of going for a through ball when they're out of options, Ronaldo preferred to squeeze his way past a defender or two. The hat-trick he scored against Valencia in 1996 is a perfect example of this, where Ronaldo simply muscled his way past two defenders on two separate occasions. Today, a striker might be able to do this once, but would he ever be able to do it again? When players don't have the ball at their feet, they do tend to run faster. Not many players can dribble at a pace that appeared as if Il Fenomeno wasn't in possession of the ball. When it came to making keepers look like amateurs, there was no striker better than Ronaldo. Watch the 1998 UEFA Cup final, where the Brazilian would put Lazio shot stopper Luca Marchegiani on his backside without ever touching the ball. Do observe something peculiar in that game. Ronaldo wasn't really his usual best during the first half of the game. Ivan Zamorano and Javier Zanetti, along with Yuri Djurkaev, had taken the game by the scruff of its neck. However, the goal scored by Il Fenomeno was another example of how he would have a rather quiet game all evening before suddenly coming to life and punishing unsuspecting opponents. And while we did say that Ronaldo wasn't his usual chirpy self, the Brazilian did make sure to hand out Alessandro Nesta, a beating the legendary defender would never forget. The Italian claims to this day that he still struggles to find out exactly what he'd done wrong before admitting that the striker was an unstoppable force of nature. During his prime, and by that we mean his prime as a young striker during the 90s, Ronaldo was up against some of the best defenders of the Italian Serie A. Gary Neville, the former Manchester United fullback, was never known to give up on his man, but admitted that during La Tournoi of 1997, Ronaldo and Romario were joking around with one another during the game against England, whose defenders simply had no answer to stop Il Fenomeno's explosiveness. This is a player who dealt in seconds, rather than wait around patiently for tactics to come alive at some stage. Those thoughts are for regular players, and Ronaldo was anything but. In his last game for Barcelona, where the club needed a win to have a chance to retain their league crown, Ronaldo once again showed just how much a few seconds can change the game. With the game tied at 0-0 and injury time fast approaching, Il Fenomeno went on one of his famous sudden bursts and was taken down 35 yards from goal. Only for a split second he stayed on the floor, and the moment a Deportivo La Coruña player miscontrolled the ball only by a fraction or so, Il Fenomeno pounced. 3 touches, and a few seconds later, he was celebrating a winning goal with his teammates. And while the likes of Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo have really shone brighter than ever in the last decade, even these two did not come close to what Il Fenomeno achieved at a very young age. In 1997, Ronaldo won the Ballon d'Or at the age of 21. No one has ever broken that record. In the same year, he broke the transfer record for the second time. The last person who did that before was Diego Maradona, another absolute legend of the game. Imagine how different things could have been had Ronaldo stayed injury-free. According to Juventus legend Gianluigi Buffon, Ronaldo would have been talked about on the same level as Pelé and Maradona had he not spent the most crucial stages of his career on the treatment table. Time for the question that might win you something really cool. Do you know which was Ronaldo's first club in Europe? He had all the skills needed to be the best ever. He was like an alien because of what he could do on the pitch, says Buffon. While many people blame injuries to be the reason for his downfall, it was also his lifestyle that contributed to his downfall. In the years since, we've witnessed several players who have achieved way more than Il Fenomeno ever did. Ronaldinho had an amazing skill set. Kaká didn't run, he used to glide past opponents. Neymar dazzles and does some amazing things, while Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi have made goal scoring an art. However, none of these players have ever been able to become a hybrid of Ronaldo's blend of skill, strength and searing pace. With Ronaldo in an attack, there was no chance for defenders to just sit back and size him up. This is the player who is at the business end of the bullet, looking for the perfect opportunity to be released and cause all sorts of mayhem. While he did score 8 goals and guided Brazil to World Cup glory in 2002, Ronaldo's reputation might have reached stratospheric levels had the final of the 1998 World Cup turned out differently. At 21, Il Fenomeno was already one of the most feared strikers in the game. What happened before the final against France remains one of the greatest mysteries in football history. The young striker allegedly suffered a fit on the day of the final, was taken to the hospital and eventually omitted from the starting 11. Just before the game started, Ronaldo was put back into the starting 11, but what happened during the game was something you never associate with the forward. Il Fenomeno was a passer-by throughout the game, and the Seleção were thumped 3-0. A year later, Ronaldo managed just 17 league games between 1999 and 2002 for Internazionale. So bad were the injury troubles that the striker was on the verge of leaving the game for good. However, the redemption in Japan was exactly what he needed. Ronaldo was selected for the World Cup even though he barely played in the last 2 years. While that was a gamble, it was one that paid off. Brazil secured their 5th World Cup title and their star man would resurrect his career with immediate effect. A move to Real Madrid would represent the pinnacle of his career, as Il Fenomeno would go on to win 2 league titles, but Champions League glory always eluded him. and that was the club where we saw the last vestiges of the greatness that Ronaldo had. While he did not have the longevity of current and former legends, Ronaldo was a star in his own right, doing things at a young age and putting in displays that transcended time. He might not have been one of the most glamorous stars out there, but he was definitely one of the shiniest ones.